even taking a lesser return. There are times now where if I see something where, yeah, I'll make a couple percent less, but I'm not doing it and not having the headache, I'll take that because I'm in a season of my life where I have little kids and I have the opportunity through real estate and and business to spend time with them.
Good to see everybody. Glad you're here. Another episode of A Hard Hat, the CEO. And today you're in for a treat. I've got Ian Noble here all the way from Austin, Texas. We're going to talk about investing. And what do I like to talk about investing most in? Real estate. Real estate, passive income, all that good stuff, tax advantages. We're going to get all of it today. But the point is, get out of that hard hat, become your CEO, take those profits, put them in something else, expand your nest egg, and create that orchard of money trees. Please help me welcome Ian Nolan.
Thanks for
Ian,
having me, Chris.
glad you're here today. And we were just chatting. I'm excited. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started, will you?
So I live in Austin, Texas. I grew up here and my background's in small business. I had a dry cleaning company here and had run that for about 15 years. And along the way, I kind of fell in love with real estate, and we're gonna dive into that today. But beyond that, married, have 3 young children under 5 years old, so I'm in the thick of it. And I like I like real estate for that matter. You don't have to be on all the time because I've lived that world.
We discussed, and I'm in yours. You're a landlord, obviously, yes, but you're also a real estate investor. Explain the difference in your mind what that is.
I usually separate them between an active investor and a passive investor. So in real estate specifically, starting at its core, you got a landlord. Most of us start off in single family rentals. That's where I had started, and still do that to this day. And on the other side of it, on the passive side, that's generally bigger projects where you work with teams and partner up, but you don't play a key role in the day to day. So I have experience in both of them and love both of them for different reasons. But a lot more headaches on the active side. I've been really drawn to the passive stuff lately, just because I've had a couple bad tenants, and those bad ones stick with you, even though the ones that that's business as usual, but the bad ones just they get to you.
Well, there are bad ones in the passive side too, except you don't deal with them. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah, they exist everywhere in every asset class. The idea, hopefully, is you have good operators with a good set of rules that make the community, wherever their tenants are, follow some standards. But yeah, that's the key advantage of on the passive side is you get to participate in the ownership, but you're not dealing with the day to day. I struggled with this from being an active landlord all the way back to being a business owner. There was so much hands-on that it's kind of refreshing being on the other side.
No matter what asset you invest in, you got to do your due diligence, and you got to follow those rules, look at those numbers, make sure the numbers make sense before you invest your money in it. And that's really the truth with real estate. But whether you're active or passive, you still got to look at those numbers, right?
Yeah, the numbers are key. One of the hardest things for me, coming from a background in running a small business and then getting involved passively, was I was used to doing everything myself. I was really hands-on and involved in my business. We had 90 employees at its peak, or 93 or so. And when I first got involved with passive investing, it was really difficult to give up that control. And you get a lot of deals. You talk about numbers. Now, in my career, I see numbers all day long, and everybody has their pro formas, and they've done their diligence. But it all starts to blend in. And what I've really found is it comes down to who's running that deal and who's the person behind it. So today I bet on the operator. I'm a low risk guy. So I find down to earth, low risk, folks that are in this business, and I try to partner with them. And I'm finding good success in it, but I certainly don't chase shiny objects. It's very easy to do that in the passive investing world.
Yes, I totally agree. You always get those opportunities, and sometimes you just got to say, no, that is not what I need to do. And
yeah,
and people come to you. Yeah. More no's than yeses. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Were you investing in real estate as you owned your other business, your dry cleaning?
I was. What I would do, I would take all of my income. I was very much hands-on, as I mentioned before. I would generally go to work in the dark and leave in the dark. And I started 2014 buying rentals in Austin. Back then, the market was different, so we'd buy a rental and get one the next year, and it kept doing that over the years. Slowly got into some of the commercial stuff, but what I did basically was all the income from the business. I lived beneath my means, and I would invest pretty much every other dollar into real estate. And it doesn't feel at the time, it's a good time to do it while you're running a business. I always tell people, you're a business as well. From a cash flow perspective, if you run a successful business, stick to your bread and butter. That is the best way to have immediate cash flow. But you should be looking outside that and try to build wealth outside of your main thing, because Chris, it's you're one disaster away or lawsuit away or something in today's world from something going wrong, or divorce or disability, all these things that come up in life. And so I would really make an intentional effort. That's my advice to anyone I talk to plan outside of your business, just in case something comes up that pulls you away from the day to day.
We are not lawyers and we're not agents by no means, but we do recommend that you do contact a legal and insurance to cover your liabilities, and how to set yourself up properly to protect yourself from those things you were talking about. Because you don't want anybody in your business, you didn't want anybody coming and getting your dry cleaning business, even though you still wanted to own real estate. And there's ways to set that up, and we're not going to necessarily go into that. But you do have other entities, I assume, that own those properties and so forth.
Yes, yeah, set up everything in separate entities, and try your best. Even when you do that, don't commingle the funds between your entities. Make sure that if you're a business owner, keep yourself protected by the money that's flowing into your real estate deals. Keep it there, and don't that allows, if you ever did run into anything, for someone to pierce the corporate veil and see that, well, yes, you have the LLC set up, and that was a good first step. But it's not enough to protect you if something was to go wrong and somebody lifts the hood up and sees, well, yeah, there's an LLC, but this stuff's moving around all over the place. So that's my advice. Keep it separate bank accounts, everything.
Absolutely. The bankers hate seeing me because I've got like 4 or 5 different accounts. And how do you keep it all straight? Well, you got to have people involved with that to help you do that. And,
yeah, well, your accountant probably likes you. They get you on every entity that you're.
Oh, they like about that thick, and it's like,
yeah.
And then once a year they want a copy of the banks want a copy. I say, here, I just take it to them, say, copy what you want and give it back to me. I don't even bother. So was there a certain percentage that you focused on? Say I've got my listeners here own their businesses. They're making profits, or we hope they're making profits. And if not, we need to help them make profits, but take those profits. Was there a certain percentage, or you try to go all in as much as you could just to squeeze, and the time was on your side if you started early enough? Was there a percentage that you focused to reinvest?
I tried to reinvest as much as I could. Now, from a percentage standpoint, if you were to put a percentage on it, I would spread it out. So even though real estate was the thing that I enjoyed the most, I also, I'd invest in the market. I'm not one of these guys that's, go all in on real estate, don't do anything with the stock market. I think that it's a healthy approach to have many different streams working for you. My main advice was just to take action, because if you want to go buy a rental property, or whatever it is in your hometown, or commercial property, there's too many people that sit on the sidelines. We talked about the numbers earlier and get analysis paralysis, thinking maybe now is not the right time, or interest rates aren't where I want them to be. But if you were to talk to somebody who's been in the game for a little bit, you would find out that overwhelmingly people generally are happy that they got in, even though you might have some short-term turmoil. If you talk to people that bought real estate 10 years ago or 20 years ago, generally you're going to have positive sentiment. Those people are, unless they ran into some sort of tragedy, generally have built up a lot of wealth outside of their business. Because the thing that you can't measure is short-term cash flow. Again, make your money in your business, but long-term wealth, I think real estate is the key component. Whether you sell your company or walk away or close it down, you've got a fallback now to where you've built up that passive income over the years. And it's just something to keep you going if you're burnout or want to step away.
It's kind of like having children. I've talked to parents or, well, we're going to wait till we have some money to have kids. That will never happen. So if you plan to have kids or you have planned to have investments of any sort, you got to get started. Just make it happen. And how do you protect yourself? Check out your numbers, make sure it makes sense on paper. So
Yeah.
you went from a active, meaning you oversee stuff in your business excuse me, in your rental business. How did you make the switch to passive? Was that easy to do?
No, it was a personal need that, and I'll share the journey. So yeah, along the way, I was investing actively in rentals in Austin. This was residential and commercial properties. When I sold my business in 2023, it was, I think emotionally I was burnout, right? And I needed to figure out a couple of things. Number one, I just finished paying off the debt of the business from when I had bought it. So I was 7 figures in debt, had a note, paid that off, and the timing worked out nicely to where when the new buyer came in, I was going to have to figure out a way to use those funds to the best of my ability. And what I mean by that is like, if you're selling your business, there's a lot of strategy and some planning that can go involved, that can be involved in that process because it's not what you earn, it's what you keep. So if you have to give a lot of it away to the government, then obviously they're taking a chunk out of everything you've worked hard to do. So leading to the passive real estate side, what I needed to do was find out a way to offset some of my gains from that year. It was obviously an abnormal year. I sold the company, and my wife and I, we are real estate professionals, and so we had a couple of tax loopholes. I don't want to say loopholes; they're tax code that we were able to utilize. And
Completely legal.
yeah, completely
Yep. Yeah.
legal. Yeah, always ask your CPA or your tax advisor in this stuff. But real estate is one of those beautiful, I'll call it a tax haven to where you have, I believe, more resources than your average, W-2 or even business owner. There's just it's written very favorably. So even better, there was a big beautiful bill passed earlier in the year that brought back depreciation, and I won't get into all the details of that. But it's another benefit for people involved in real estate to have some depreciation losses. And by the way, when I say losses, for those of you that aren't involved in real estate already, a depreciation loss is not losing real money. So it is an allowed amount that the IRS gives you to depreciate your property, and it's what we call a paper loss. So if you own a home, your home is generally depreciated over 27 and a half years. There are tools out there in real estate that allow you to basically front load that to the first year. And if depending on, your tax status, you can offset some income, whether it be ordinary. Many can't do their ordinary active income, but at least there's some tools that allow you to I'll call it bank some passive losses to offset future earnings from future passive real estate endeavors.
Now, knowing from personal experience that they want you to stay in real estate long term, they always do. I mean, the government is the government, but we can talk about it in a good sense. Do they want people to be housed? They want to provide housing for people, whether that's in an apartment or a single family home or do whatever. But over that depreciation time, when you come time to sell, either you're going to pay dearly in taxes or they want you to reinvest others and so forth. So it's always an ongoing process, and not to be prepared if you ever do get into real estate. If you ever do sell it, you got to plan for those taxes and that depreciation because the government always wants it back somehow. So
yeah, recapture. Yeah, like recapture, but you can generally, again, with strategic planning, make it still a favorable, a favorable transition or rolling it into the next property.
Absolutely. There's all kinds of special stuff out there. So you help people find properties now, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So after getting involved, so again, how I got into the passive side, that helped me in that year offset some of the income that I was going to have. And after I took some time off, I wanted to figure out what I was going to do next. One of the funds that I was in and investing in, I loved it. It was low risk. I felt that it was the safest spot for me to park my funds, kind of using it like a parking garage. And it was just making, income at every month, same amount, either 8, 9, or 10%. I thought, this is great. So I got into that business, and now what I do is I run a private network, and we provided, passive investors access to deals that otherwise they may not have access to. And then what we do is we co-invest as a group, and you as the investor or whoever it may be remain completely passive to where they're not dealing with the day to day. We were talking, Chris, earlier about being landlords. There's a lot of war stories and terrible things that sometimes come up with that. But this side is a good way to help business owners, and that's primarily who I work with. I think for whatever your business, you may have mostly construction, in the construction business listening in, but for any sort of small business or blue collar business, we all speak that same language. And so I like helping those folks that I know are working their tail off, in their business, and just to grow wealth outside of their business, so that, again, they can hang up the hat at some point and not have to be as worried about what's next.
Is that through a type of syndication?
Yeah, what I'll do is I work with partners, and they will, we talked earlier about saying no to a lot during due diligence. So a lot of deals, most deals are told no. And then when they pass the criteria, the group of partners that I work with, then I will go and vet them. I'll underwrite what they've underwritten, poke holes through it. Sometimes a lot in the real estate space and in any sort of investment space, sometimes, people will put out their projections and the pro formas. And my job is to make sure that that stuff is accurate, because there's nothing worse. You can put whatever you want in a packet that is shiny and polished for some new investor. And I'm the first person putting money into every one of my deals. I'll park personal money. And so I have to like it enough to where I feel good about, this being a low risk investment that I'm comfortable sharing with others. And then we do other stuff. It's an extra layer. I will visit these sites, perform background checks, anything that we can do to reduce the risk of something going wrong ultimately. Because, investing has risk and everything, but that's that's the position that I take on it. I put my own money first, make sure that it's a good, safe deal, and then people in the network get access to those future deals, and then we can get in and hopefully make them an owner and allow them to reap the benefits of the ownership without all the day-to-day stuff.
You made a perfect point, is that just because the numbers make sense on paper, and I talk about doing your due diligence, you got to make sure the information is legit, because you just can't trust. Unfortunately, you just can't trust everybody and telling you the truth, and do your own research and figure it out. And I'm sure you get that all squared away. That being said, what type of person, let's say I'm a business owner, I am a business, but let's say we want to invest in real estate. What type of person are you looking for? Because not everybody can just join a syndicate. There's other rules and the government puts in place. How's that work?
Yeah, that's right. That's a great question. So there's two different types. When syndicating is essentially raising money to invest as a group. And so people that are, syndicators will do that, and they'll go out and they have their network and they pool capital together or money together to invest in a project. The rules that you have to follow are making sure that you're adhering to SEC guidelines. And so there are certain guidelines in place depending on the type of project that you're marketing. So one of them is called a 506C. A 506C is what generally, you may see it online or on the internet, invest in this and get this return. When you're marketing to the public like that, generally that's the classification that you fall under. And the criteria for an investor to get involved is generally they're needing to be an accredited investor. Now, that title is not, essentially there's a definition behind it. It's for someone that if they file single on their taxes, they make $200K in income. If they file jointly, they make $300K. And another qualification, if they don't have that income, but they can still become an accredited investor, is if they have $1 million net worth outside their primary residence. So there are a couple ways. There's websites that allow you to do this for free, or you can get a letter from your CPA or your tax team. But that is the I'll call it an obstacle to be able to participate in a lot of these projects. And look, I think there's two ways to look at that. On one account, it's a bummer that people that may not qualify maybe don't have the income or the net worth. Yeah, it's a bummer that they can't be involved in some of these projects, especially for people that are really close. The protection I think that the SEC is trying to put in place is to make sure that, we mentioned like bad people earlier. You
Yeah.
don't want somebody telling you, hey, come invest with me and this large project, there's going to be big returns. And you don't want somebody to give their hard-earned last, $50,000 that they're really counting on to, for this black hole of promise, right? And so I think, again, there's always risk, but that threshold is to make sure that people know that there are risks associated with it, and that person, in the eyes of the government, is financially savvy or educated enough to be able to participate in such an investment.
And you and I are proof that you don't have to be that. That's for participating in groups, but you can go out and do your own investing if you want and start out small, and you
Yeah.
don't have to go through those hoops as long as you have the money and the financial ability to make a bank or whoever you're going to go through get you some loans, or if you even have the cash, that's even better. Just buy it outright. But it's still the same amount of work as far as doing the paperwork and looking at it, make sure everything makes sense.
Yeah, you definitely can do it alone. And, I always tell people that, yeah, I'm in the business of bringing people together and investing, but I started actively investing, or, I was a
Hmm.
landlord first. So if you're curious about it, go get yourself a property, or find out a way, for something local that you're comfortable with. I'd say that's probably the best place to start is, you know, find something local. And with real estate, as opposed to a lot of different investments, it's easier to understand. If you're a homeowner or even a renter, you're going to have, there's going to be a mortgage on that property. There will be the general rent that somebody can collect. You're going to have expenses. And so to your point, Chris, just make sure you're doing the numbers and trying to figure out a way to make sure that you can make it. Now, the benefit to all business owners, and why I always tell people, like, get in it now, don't wait until you're done with the business, is because if you're investing that way, cash flow is very restricted your first several years. You might make a couple $100 a month, but that's nothing compared to you if you're a successful business owner. That won't move the needle. When you really start to see this stack up is, 5, 10, 15 years down the road, at that point when these tenants have paid off your property. So it could be something, on a $100,000 house, you put in 20, and over time, yes, there's some more money that goes into it, but mostly that's driven from the tenant. And then you might have a $200,000 property in 10 years that used to be $100,000, but you only put in 20. So there's definitely a way to do it, but don't be, for people, I say, don't quit your day job and start saying, I'm going to be, or I'm going to have rent.
No.
It's a long play. It's real estate's a long game.
Well, being in Texas, you know about cattle, and we have cattle up here in Missouri. I used to have cattle. You got to have a bunch of them to make any sense. If you're playing you got to play the long game, yes. But if you're talking about cash flow and you're talking smaller amounts, then you got to have a lot of small amounts to make up something good. So a lot of cattle, a lot of real estate. Grocery stores the same way. You got small turns, and they want lots of volume. So
Yeah.
it's the same type of game, just different businesses.
And make sure you have help and partner up too. Because like in the construction space, growing up, my stepdad, he owned a drywall company. Later had another stepdad that is a general contractor and has his own company. And I know how much they work. And so I'd say, also be ready to put in a little bit of work. Most of the work's done on the front end, right? Like underwriting, making sure that the place gets cleaned up. But you make sure you have enough time too, if you're ready to go that route, that you can dedicate towards it, to where you don't want it to become a burden on you. Make sure you really know that that's the route you want to go if you start buying rentals.
The biggest thing about making money with rentals is on the buy, meaning it's the purchase. Make sure you're at the right deal at the right price, and that's the real key to the whole success of it. Because you pay too much in the front, it takes a long time to dig yourself out. So,
Yeah, people are experiencing that for many that bought in 22 and 23. That
mm-hmm.
a market correction, I'll call it, to where during COVID, money was flying high, and prices and cap rates and everything, how these properties are valued was steep. And now with interest rate hikes, a lot of people got into tough situations. And so the most important thing, when you're doing your numbers, make sure your debt is controlled. You don't want to get into these variable rates and have something happen again. Everyone that had variable debt in 22 and 23 did not anticipate what was going to happen with interest rates. And a lot of them lost out on everything they work hard to get. All came down to debt. They could have found, if it was available, you find less attractive debt than something that's fixed to where all right, this is my bottom line, and it won't change on me in 6 months if the interest rate changes.
That's very, very, very important. That's a good point. I want to shift gears just a tad. And you talk about, in my notes here, we talk about you're really investing in time instead of return on investment. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? What our long game is? We're talking about the long game. What is that long game?
Yeah, the real estate, you put the money aside, and what you find with real estate investors is that they really care about prioritizing their time. And so if you're a business owner, a lot of us, we're trapped in our business, whether it be time or even the emotional side of it, or both. What I like about the passive investing space is that, you're trying to set yourself up. You're being intentional today to set yourself up with a future to where you're going to have more time. And I call it there's a phrase that goes around like buying back your time. And essentially that's what you're doing. You're pre-allocating your money today to make sure that in the future you have other means of income that's coming in. And look, one investment's not going to change somebody's life. I'm the first to say that. It's not you're not going to retire from one passive investment, but it's the mindset of taking action and setting yourself up to where you can step away. And then once you get on the other side, you realize there's a lot more to it. Even taking a lesser return. There are times now where if I see something where I'll make a couple percent less, but I'm not doing it and not having the headache, I'll take that because I'm in a season of my life where I have little kids and I have the opportunity through real estate and, and business to spend time with them. So, for me, that was the big selling point. It's like, I can't get these years back, especially with, I have 3 kids, 5 and under. I want as much time as possible with them because I remember when I was running the day to day, I would, my wife was always telling me, hey, where are you? And what she meant by that, she would ask me that to my face. So obviously I was in front of her, right? But up here in my head, I was somewhere else constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I would dream and have nightmares about work and employees quitting. And, y'all know the drill being business owners.
Oh, yes.
It's not easy. And that's why, businesses fail. But if you're running a successful business right now, you want to prioritize time or your investments today, so where you can take it easy. Nobody wants to work until they're 75 or 60, whatever. You want to be able to step away on your terms, and I think that this is just one more tool in the tool belt to help out.
You can be active till you're 75, but you don't want to have to work.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Good for fun at that point, not for money.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When I consult clients, the first thing we deal with is time. Because if you don't have the time, you're not going to have the time to do what you need to do, whatever that is, the actions that you need to take to make the next step. And time is I was reading the book the other day, said, everybody's got the same amount of time. We're equal level because 60 minutes in an hour, all the 24 hours a day, everybody has that same, there's no differentiation between that and somebody else.
Yeah, that time levels the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
Rich or poor, doesn't matter, what color you are. It's like, we're all, we're all subject to it. And so, if you can think about it you're right. Like if you coach your clients to think of it through that, it really does change your perspective because everyone thinks that we have more time than we do. There's this thing that I saw, speaking of that showed your life and with the average life expectancy. And you can buy this, it's a poster, and you put in your age today, and it will show you on like a graph how much time you have left. And that's scary. If you look at that and, take it to heart, it's like, I got to do what I want to do now because life's short and you never know what tomorrow brings.
Absolutely. Last grand finale question. So what does financial freedom mean to you, Ian?
I'm going right back to time. So
time's a good answer.
Yeah, if there's no dollar amount for me, it's all about being able to, go on vacation when I want to. We try to travel and get my kids involved with a lot of experiences. And at this point, the material stuff doesn't matter to me. I want to provide my kids a good life. And, that that freedom, I owe it to real estate and to business. I think that if you can find a healthy overlap between the two, you're 10 times better off than somebody that only has one source of income working for them. So shoot for it, educate yourself as best you can, because it will pay rewards in the long term.
I want to go a little deeper. What's it feel like?
It's hard to explain that.
Yeah.
When I sold my business, I was used to the grind, and I felt like I needed quickly, like within a matter of a month or two, I was like, okay, what business am I going to go buy next? But now, fast forward a couple of years and looking back, it's hard to describe the freedom that comes from it. And I do something. Yes, I work now, but I'm having fun and I'm able to help other people out as well. And so, for me, it's I'm able to focus a lot more on helping others. Before, when I was running my business and I didn't have time, I was selfish with my time, and it was all about me and how can I serve me. And I think that since selling the business, it's really nice to like see the light on the other side and be able to help out other people and help them hopefully feel the same thing. So I'm having fun doing what I do.
The fact that I want to say that money is not going to solve your problems. It just creates a whole different set of problems. But I'd rather deal with those problems than the ones that not having any money. But I appreciate your time today. What's the best way? And if I'm interested in being an investor and reaching out, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Yeah. So what I'll do, and I'll share with you in the show notes, I have a free, it's a passive investing guide. It's a little cheat sheet that if you're interested in this kind of stuff, it will help you see how this all works. And so I try to break it down to be real simple, good questions to ask. So I'll provide that link. My website is runsteadyinvestments.com. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. Again, my name is Ian Noble. And so I stay relatively active on there. But best thing for me is, to have a conversation with somebody and, see what they're looking for and see if I'm a good fit for them or not.
Sounds great. Also, if you need help finding that profit to put into those investments with Ian, get hold of me down in the show notes below, hardhatceo.com. Get your free consultation. Everybody, thank you, Ian, and everybody will see you again. God be with you to meet again. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.